Nashville Predators get a long overdue yet expected first win of the preseason. Was this our first look at the regular season lineup for the Nashville Predators? Plus, you guys had questions on the Preds. We have answers. We'll be doing a mailbag today on the Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making the Locked On Predators podcast your first listen of the day. Every single day, we are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, wanted to start out with a special hello to our loyal Locked On Pred heads out there, the everydayers who tune into every single show. We love you guys. We appreciate the support you give us week after week. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at the Hockey News.
All right. You guys had some questions on the Nashville Predators heading into the new season. We got some good questions coming in from Twitter, from Facebook, from Instagram, and a couple of you guys also left some comments on our YouTube page. So we're going to be going through and doing a mailbag segment here in just a little bit. But first, Ann, some business to take care of. The Preds finally got a preseason win, baby.
Come on now. That's the big fat W we've been waiting for. 5-1 win over the Carolina Hurricanes. Asterisk.
Yeah.
Asterisk.
Whatever.
Notation.
Yeah.
Notation. Because it wasn't the starting roster that, they're going to be playing in the regular season.
The Hurricanes are going to be playing.
The Hurricanes are going to be playing in the regular season. Or tonight, as the Predators head to Raleigh, they're going to be playing kind of more of the starters tonight. Last night was Rod Brindamore's chance to look at some of his PTO players, some of his depth pieces, the guys battling for spots. So it was a win, y'all. 5-1 win. A lot to like about it. A couple things that were a little hitch in the giddy up. But yeah, 5-1 win. Let's go. Win at Bridgestone.
Yeah, so this was the regular Nashville Predators lineup. Juuse Saros played a full game. You had guys like Roman Josi, Phil Forsberg, Ryan O'Reilly pretty much playing close to what seems like regular minutes.
Yep.
Although I will say there is a couple of people moving around in different spots in the lineup. We'll talk about that in a second. But first, Ann, let's talk about the players who were playing last night, because we kind of thought maybe this is sort of the look at the roster that Andrew Brunette wants heading into the regular season. Some notable inclusions and some notable healthy scratches.
Yeah, this was definitely an interesting roster. I think you're right. I think it's pretty close to what the Nashville Predators are going to start. You had Forsberg, O'Reilly, and Parsonen, which I think we need to kind of dig into that in a minute.
That was a great line. I think that's your top line going into the regular season.
I mean, can we just talk about the fact that you have Philip Forsberg, Ryan O'Reilly, and 7th round draft pick Juuse Parsonen absolutely tearing it up on the ice. Loved that top line. Nyquist, Glass, Garyanov, Evangelista, Novak, Fagemo. Hey, Sammy Fagemo, we see you.
Yeah.
Then Kiefer Sherwood, Colton Sistens, Phil Tomasino on your 4th line.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think there's a lot of, we definitely have the spine of this starting opening night roster. A couple of pieces that are still in question. I think Kiefer Sherwood's still battling for a roster spot. Mm-hmm. Yakov Trenin was a healthy scratch. Gut tells me Yakov Trenin is going to make the opening night roster. I think he just brings so much to the ice, and penalty kill, just incredible. So, Yakov Trenin, I think he's a sure thing. So definitely a couple of interesting ins and outs that I think are still going to be tweaked before Tuesday afternoon.
Including Dante Fabro. also
Yeah.
a healthy scratch. So
Yeah.
that maybe tells you what Andrew Burnett is thinking in terms of that last spot on the right side of the D.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of big takeaways there. One is that at least for most of the games, Sammy Fagemo got higher billing than Phil Tomasino.
Yep.
In fact, Sammy Fagemo also for a little bit moved up to play on the Philip Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly line. So that should give you an idea, because a lot of people were like, oh, he's just kind of like a training camp guy, like adding some depth, maybe an extra skater. I think that proved last night, and it proved, based on how well he did in the game, because I thought he was one of my standout players.
Yes.
That tells you that the Nashville Predators maybe think a little bit higher of Sammy Fagemo than maybe some players they thought highly of heading into this season.
Yeah.
Phil Tomasino, that's on the fourth line, and also not really getting a lot of elevated opportunities to kind of play higher.
Yeah.
That sort of stood out to me. And then commenting on the Yakov Trenin, Kiefer Sherwood thing, I will say, like, I think that might be the battle. I do think, Kiefer Sherwood might be your guy heading into the regular season. But that's the other one that I think could kind of go either way. You might see both of those guys rotate in and out, but I mean, it seems like there's a lot of takeaways that maybe we're going to have to wait and see till this Tuesday to really kind of get a firm take either way on it.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot that would be a question about this roster under normal circumstances, but with new head coach Andrew Burnett, who is just getting to know these guys, I think it's a hard read. Like, he really is still trying to get to know players like Phil Tomasino, like Luke Evangelista, like Juuse Parssinen, let alone Sammy Fagemo. So I think it's very hard to predict 100% this is who's going to make the starting roster, because it's a clean slate. We talked about that. That was the message in day one of camp. It's a clean slate. So he's really not carrying over anything from last season. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this shakes out. Tonight will be very, very important, but I don't know that I would bet all the money that I have saying I could nail this opening night roster.
Yeah.
I think there's still just a few too many questions.
I'm with you there, but I will say a couple of standouts. I like the way a lot of these guys look. And again, they were against, the B+ squad of the Carolina Hurricanes.
Right.
But at the same time, you could see the chemistry on that top line. I thought that was the best that top line has looked from a 3-person standpoint.
Yes.
For all of preseason. That Novak Evangelista combo, that's absolutely cranking. Tommy Novak.
Yes.
We had concerns about whether he would be able to keep up that magic. I have way fewer concerns about that, seeing how he's done in preseason. As we mentioned, Sammy Fagemo came to play. I really like that addition. He has really impressed me in the short time that he's been here. And the other person I will point out, Anne, is that Roman Josi has looked really strong these past few preseason games that he played as well. And so it kind of seems like he is picking up right where he left off before he got hurt at the end of last season too. With all the talk about, watching some of the roster battles and position battles and stuff like that, it doesn't seem like we've talked too much about Roman Josi and his camp. So I think that's worth pointing out, is that he also has looked really solid in not just yesterday, but a couple of the last preseason games as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. Want to highlight what you said about Tommy Novak. 2 players that I think have come into camp and shown us, hey, I am who you thought I was. Tommy Novak and Juuse Parssinen. You have to wonder when you see a season like we saw from both of them at the end of last year, like, is this really it? Or, is this kind of a lightning in a bottle thing? I think both players have shown the Nashville Predators, no, I am who you thought I was. Want to see a little more of that from some of the other players, but I think Novak and Parsonen have really done well. And again, Parsonen has had a shortened training camp because he was out day-to-day lower body injury. But I'm telling you, when he came back to training camp, that young man was shooting goals, y'all. I mean, he was scoring some goals, just the ones that made everybody go, ooh, in practice. And so it was great to see that translate in the game. And, you could almost, not quite, but almost put me with Philip Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly and elevate my game. So imagine if this is the line they go with on the top line, it's going to be really exciting to see Parsonen's season.
Yeah. One more preseason game tonight against the Carolina Hurricanes. That is in Carolina. Expect the reverse of yesterday. The Carolina Hurricanes are expected to play their sort of regular lineup, maybe with a roster battle or two, on the bottom of the lineup. And the Preds are kind of expected to play everybody on the bubble. So, maybe expect another 5-1 game going the other way.
Could be.
We know that you guys have had a lot of questions about what the Nashville Predators have done in training camp so far, which is why we set up a little mailbag segment. We're going to get to some of the questions that you guys want to know the answers to coming up here in just a little bit. Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs shorts are quite possibly the best thing in my wardrobe, because not only do they feel great and comfortable to wear, but they make me look great as well. The secret is Bird Dog's cloud knit fabric. It looks just like khaki, but it stretches to give you a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. Our regular shorts are made of that stiff, restricting cotton, not Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs are lightweight, they're breathable, they're comfortable, and you can wear them pretty much in every single occasion. Plus, they use anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. That's why you can wear them on anything. You can wear them out to a day on the golf course. You can come home, wear them to a fancy date night, a workout situation, just lounging around on your couch watching football. Any occasion is great to wear your Bird Dogs. You won't want to take these off. Try them yourself. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL or enter promo code LockedOnNHL at checkout for a free Bird Dogs water bottle with your order. Again, that's birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL for a free water bottle at checkout. Again, you're not going to want to take these Bird Dogs off. We promise you. All right, Ann, it is mailbag time.
Yes.
Here on the Locked On Predators podcast. We asked you guys to send in your questions on training camp, Nashville Predators preseason so far, or thoughts on the regular season. And you guys sent us some good feedback. So, Ann, would you do the honors and dive into the mailbag for us?
I will. So our first question comes from Julian Simpson Kirsch. Who has been the most surprising player in camp preseason, good or bad? Love this question. Great question.
Good or bad?
Good or bad, my friends?
Let's see. I mean, for good, is it too much to say, Fagemo already?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think in such a little time, he has shown why the Predators picked him up off waivers when I think everybody was like, you're doing what?
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, and I know this sounds ridiculous, but I had this thought yesterday. For me, Ryan O'Reilly, and again, I know that sounds ridiculous. Obviously, the Predators, wanted him for a reason, and he comes with a lot of hype. Ryan O'Reilly is the hype for me. I have been so impressed with him on ice, off ice. And in talking to the other players, I think they kind of have the same thing. There are so many little things that Ryan O'Reilly does well that when you don't watch him game in and game out, day in and day out, maybe you just don't pick up on. And last night I was sitting at the game watching him, and there's a part of me that's like, I wish that I had never watched hockey until I found Ryan O'Reilly, because I think, man, I would have loved for him to be the introduction to hockey, because there's so many aspects of his game that you could just sit and watch him for 60 minutes and just learn so much about the nuance of how are you an excellent player at little things. So Ryan O'Reilly has knocked my socks off, and that may be just on me for not understanding fully what the Predators were getting. The other one, Juuse Saros, we talked about it. Tommy Novak and Juuse Saros, they are who they said they were. And we've seen that in camp preseason. Let's see what happens in the regular season as well.
Yeah. To add on to that also, I will, kind of give a shout out to Tommy Novak as well. I know he had big season last year and everybody had high expectations for them, but there was also, kind of a reasonable bit of doubt. It's like, okay, is he really going to reproduce what he did last year? And, quite frankly, and he looks even better than he did last year too. He looks like he's going to be an integral part of this Preds offense as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's another shout out. There are two people maybe that have surprised me in terms of disappointment.
Okay.
And they're going to be the topic of their next question from our buddy Brian Basson over at On the Forecheck. Who logs more top line minutes by the end of the season? Phil Tomasino or Luke Evangelista?
I don't know that either of them are going to get as many top line minutes as we thought. I really felt like both of them were going to battle for top 6 minutes. I'm not sure we've seen enough from them in the preseason for them to compete with Gurianov, with Juuse Saros, and to get those spots. So yeah, I'm kind of there. Look, love them. I like their game. I think maybe there's more room for growth than maybe what we saw from, like you said, Tommy Novak to this year. It's kind of, you're getting the same, if not better. I think, let's see what Tomasino and Evangelista can do. But I would agree with you. I think I'm a little bit surprised that they aren't as competitive for that top 6 minutes as maybe we anticipated.
And I was going to tweak that question to kind of be like, who do you think winds up kind of having a bigger role by the end of the year?
Yeah.
And here's the thing, like when I say like disappointing, it's not like they've been like, oh my God, they suck. Like they're going to get cut or anything like that.
Absolutely not.
It's just that I thought maybe they would be the ones that look the most raring to go under this new offensive this new offensive season from Andrew Burnett. Because remember, when Barry Trotz traded away Ryan Johansson, when he cut Matt Duchene, a lot of what he said was, look, we want to clear the way for some of these younger players. It just so happened that happened right after Phil Tomasino came back up. Luke Evangelista had a big debut. So, it seemed like, okay, those are kind of who Barry Trotz is talking about. These young players who really carried the team at the end of the year. Now they're going to have a chance to kind of be cement themselves as marquee guys. And they just, I want to see more from them. I'm not going to say they've had a bad preseason, they've had a bad camp or anything, because they've looked fine.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just that I think other players have kind of stood out more. And that's surprising, because those were the two guys that you really wanted to see step up and kind of cement themselves as standouts. I don't know if they really have done that yet.
Yeah, I think it's surprising as far as my expectations, but when you really look at it, I'm not sure that it's super surprising. Phil Tomasino, up and down between the NHL and AHL. He talked about the fact that he lost a lot of weight in this offseason working on speed. So he's kind of making some adjustments to his game. Luke Evangelista is just a young sprout, y'all. He has not played a ton of NHL games. So expectations are very high for them. I agree with you. Barry Trotz kind of set the table a certain way, and I'm not sure that's how dinner is being served, but I think it's going to be okay. I just think they're going to marinate a little more, maybe in bottom 6 roles, at least to start the season. But let's see what they can do. But yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down about them. Picking it up.
I know not a lot of people are going to be completely oh yeah, 100% on this, but the fact that Phil Tomasino has not gotten a ton of power play units in camp.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that he was on the 4th line, kind of below Fagemo, who just got here.
Yeah. It makes you kind of wonder, you know,
Yeah.
where is he in Andrew Brunette's mind?
Yeah, for sure. Here is another question, Anne. This one is from @Preds Realist on Twitter.
Okay.
How is Nashville going to eventually clear the logjam of NHL ready defensemen? Is Barrie gone before the season ends, or do they look to move somebody like Jeremy Lazan?
Yeah, this is such a great question. The defense is such a great question. Tons of talent. How you going to sort all that out? I think a lot about long-term defensive plans will be determined by how this team does. I think if this Predators team doesn't meet expectation, which I think is finishing the season the way they did last season, I think at the trade deadline, if they're struggling, it's not going well, I think probably Barrie will get traded, which would suck. I want to go on the record as saying I don't want to see Tyson Barrie go. But I do think he's probably your best defensive trade piece. So I can see if the team does not do well, him going. I'm not sure what they're going to do. And again, I come back to this Fabro-Carrier, duel that we have going on. What's going to happen there? I don't know. And remember, they've got these young guys in the wings. So again, if the Nashville Predators really just can't kind of get it going, maybe they trade Lazan, maybe they trade Barrie, maybe they, trade a couple guys and just say, hey, you know what, we're bringing up Stastny. We're going to give Delgaiso his shot. And we're just going to kind of take a step back to take a step forward. So I think so much about the defensive decisions are going to be made midway through the season, depending on how the team does.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a big factor, there's two. I do think Tyson Barrie, if the Predators are kind of middle of the pack, I do think he's a trade target, not because the Preds want to get rid of him, but just because he's going to be a big, attractive piece for somebody else at the deadline.
Yeah.
It's really going to come down to how they feel about, I think, Lazan, Carrier, and Fabro.
Yeah.
If they look at them and say, like, you know what, we'd actually be comfortable with any of you on the bottom line. Like we see enough of you that we could see a spot for you moving forward. Then I think maybe that sort of the lineup up top shifts, and maybe they're more, willing to aggressively shop somebody like Barrie. If they're not, like if they look at somebody like Dante Fabro, who was healthy scratch yesterday, and go, I just don't see a fit long term.
Right.
Then I think maybe you see one of those guys maybe moved before the season ends, or waived, or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you, Ann. That's definitely going to be the battle. Still to come, we have questions on the aforementioned Juuso Parssinen, who we've talked about earlier today. We've also got some thoughts on maybe Juuse Saros and his season ahead. That's coming up in just a second.
First, want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Indeed. When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could do the same thing with your business team? If you're building a roster to win the league, you need Indeed. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. You can find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Instant Match, assessments, and they also have virtual interviews. If you hate waiting, Indeed's US data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. With Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description, and you can invite them to apply right away. Indeed knows that finding people with the right skills makes all the difference when you're a hiring team of one. So go and visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Again, Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
All right, Ann, let's get to our next question, shall we? Let's get to a couple sent in from our friend at GetBarryTrotst.
Yeah.
Here's one on Juuse Saros. With Saros being as good as he is it realistic the Preds can do that bad?
I love this question.
The Preds were very, very bad last year and almost made the playoffs. So
anything is possible when you have Juuse Saros. And that's just true. Look at the game last night. The Carolina Hurricanes got 4 shots on net in just over 1 minute in this game. And Juuse Saros is like, don't worry, guys, I got you till you get up to speed. Yeah. Now, shouldn't have to do that, but Juuse Saros is the X factor for the Nashville Predators. And so you can look at everything on this roster. You can look at the forward lines. You can look at the defensive core. You can measure depth and talent and skill and all of this stuff and say, this is where the Nashville Predators are going to be. But unless you factor Juuse Saros into that equation, you have no idea, because Saros steals games. And I agree with the premise of this question. Can the Predators really be that bad with Juuse Saros? They would have to work really hard to be that bad with Juuse Saros. He just makes the team so much better, y'all. So much better.
As long as Juuse Saros is in form and not injured, the Preds are going to have a chance to, steal a lot of wins this year, because that's just the goalie that Juuse Saros is. Like, he's that guy that steals games. He's one of the best game-changing goalies in the entire NHL. And I do think he would be considered one of, maybe the best goalie in the league if the Preds were a smidge better in front of them right now. So I'm with you, Ann.
Yeah.
I don't see the Predators really absolutely sucking if Juuse Saros is on form.
Yeah, when people say, hey, where do you see the Predators finishing? I can tell you where I see the Predators finishing when I look at, kind of combining the veterans and the new guys and how the defense sorts out. What I cannot factor in is Juuse Saros, because I'm telling you, a healthy Juuse Saros changes everything. So how goes Juuse Saros? So in a lot of ways will go the Nashville Predators. He's such a gem. What would we do without him?
Yeah. Conversation is different between Juuse Saros and the rest of the team.
That's very true. Very true.
Yeah.
All right. So let's take a question from Rambunctious39. With almost $8 million remaining in cap space, do you think the Preds are looking seriously at any more free agents? Or are they using this as an intentional flexibility for future trade moves? Do you think the Predators are going to do anything?
Not unless Patrick Kane really wants to come to Nashville.
Yeah.
I mean, who else really is out there that you would want to bring in in terms of a free agent? I don't see anything right now. I don't see them being aggressive right now. I think this is just, kind of set yourself up for cap flexibility over the next couple of years. Remember, you also have that $11 million dead cap hit coming up in a couple of years that you kind of have to keep your eye on.
Right.
The only thing I would say, Ann, is that I would say the Predators are probably going to try to be in a position where, let's just say, one of those like Matthew Tkachuk-esque trades comes along where they're just all of a sudden like, a 25-year-old surefire game-changing like person to build around,
right?
Comes up, like a trade offer comes in for up, that they'd be ready to kind of make that move. I don't see anybody, like that available right now. So I'm not sure it's going to happen, but
I don't see the Predators. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I don't see them doing any shopping like that for a long time. Like, not a long time, but I mean, I don't see them making a lot of moves at the trade deadline. I don't see them, next offseason even going out and trying to find that guy. I really think the Predators are going to sit on what they've got and sort of see what happens, unless this season is a complete dumpster fire, which, again, with Juuse Saros, can we really be a complete dumpster fire? I don't think so.
Yeah. I think we got time for one more. Let's go back to another one from @GetBarryTrotst. Who do you see as the guy who gets the call up from Milwaukee and then breaks through?
Joakim Kimmel.
I'm with you there.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, Joachim Kimmel is something pretty special. I like that he's starting the season in Milwaukee. I think it's the right place for him. But you want to talk about a player who really tried to make a case for, no, you really want me to stay here? That was Joachim Kimmel in this preseason. Again, killer postseason with Milwaukee. Time in Milwaukee, time with Carl Taylor's only going to make this better. I think he's going to be an early call up for the Nashville Predators. And I don't know that Joachim Kimmel will go back down. That's my
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's like the next big breakout forward to really come through. And the other throw out is Spencer Stastny, just because I think if he gets his chance to come up, I think that the Preds are going to be, they're going to be ready.
Here's a follow-up question real quick. Is there a shock player getting sent down or scratched, Nick?
I mean, we talked about Yakov Trenin. That might be, a little bit of a surprise thing. It's, I don't know. I mean, it's not out of the question. Somebody like, it's not out of the question. Maybe a Tomasino or an Evangelista.
Yeah.
Wind up, maybe having to swap some minutes as well.
Yeah, that Evangelista is kind of my pick for that. That would be a shock player. And look, y'all, if it happens, it is not the end of the story, and it may not be a bad thing for him. But yeah, I think let's not buy pitchforks if Evangelista kind of spends a little bit of time in Milwaukee this season. So we'll see. So much could happen.
I would disagree with that move if it happens. Yeah, we're out of time. So, that's going to do it for today's edition of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We will be back next week with all new episodes. We'll see you then.